Disaster aboard the USS Constitution. Chapter 4.
Finally, we were given leave to begin our mission exploring the Angel Cloud end of the southern wormhole. It was a relief to start a new mission. The inactivity was always hard on me and the crew. However, as the beginning meant a few days of relative peace, I could rely on my first officer to see that we would reach our destination with dispatch. In the meantime, I could be with Ginny and Davy and continue my other pursuits, such as my twice daily walk through the ship. It was refreshing and helped me stay focused on the people that made up my crew. Every morning as I walked through the ship, I would see T-Bass in other crewmen's company or simply going from one place to another. She would always acknowledge my presence with a
"Good morning, Captain."
or a smile and a wave. At first, I noticed her once or twice a day, but then, it became more often, 2 or 3 times a day. Finally, I decided to alter my daily routine, but she was there several times a day. Although, during our first tour together, she had not been that gregarious, now she seemed to be in the company of many different crew members, from commanders to able-bodied spacemen. One morning, I came across Commander Trank and stopped her to talk. "Emily, tell me about T-Vass, she seems more sociable than when we first began work on the ship." Emily replied,
"I think she is somewhat lonely since Sarel was taken from her. I think she's just reaching out to her shipmates to fill her void, and maybe a void in the others too."
I said, "Well, if that's so good." Emily answered,
"Captain, why don't you ask her to dinner one evening? It might do you both some good."
I thought a moment. "I'll consider that, thanks." "Well, I guess we both should get back to work." She smiled and nodded.
"Good morning, Captain."
And we went about our separate ways. It was about 2 weeks to the southern wormhole, and I didn't expect any trouble getting there, so I continued my daily walks around the Constitution. And as before, I bumped into Commander Trank and Dr. T-Vass several times a day. We might just nod or stop and chat. It made that daily walk pleasant, and I began to look forward to my daily interaction with those 2 officers. One afternoon, as I walked by sickbay, I noticed the door ajar, so I stuck my head in and saw T-Vass sitting in her office. "Doctor, may I interrupt you a moment?" She smiled and waved me in.
"Captain, what can I do for you?"
I replied, "I simply wanted to ask you whether you would care to dine with me one evening and maybe enjoy a movie with me?" She thought a moment.
"That would be nice. When would you like to do that?"
I answered, "How about this evening?" She nodded.
1800, your cabin?
I turned, "It's a date." I went to the bridge and asked Joel to step into the ready room. "Lieutenant Steele, you have the con." As the door closed, I turned to Joel. "Joel, I have a date with T-Vass this evening, any advice?" He smiled.
What have you thought about?
I replied, "Well, back in my day, dinner and a movie." He nodded.
That sounds good. What would you feed her?
I answered, "I don't know, they have a dish kinda like chicken chow mein. I guess we could have chow mein." He asked,
What movie?
I scratched my head, "I don't know. What would she like?" He said,
Why don't you start with your favorite movie? By the way, what is your favorite movie?
I said, "Superman, the movie. With Christopher Reeve." He smiled.
That's a classic.
Then he advised me to get a love seat and introduce her to popcorn. I laughed, "May as well go all out. Thanks, number 1, I owe you." 1800, with Ginny riding on my shoulders, I reached for the annunciator at T-Vass cabin, but before I could touch it, the door opened, and she stepped out. We walked to my cabin and were met by Davy.
"Hi, T-Vass. Are you going to have dinner with us?"
She hugged Davy and said,
"Why, yes. Your dad asked me. Is that okay?"
He hugged her back.
"Oh yeah, it's great. Dad, what's for dinner?"
I replied, "Chicken chow mein." I turned to T-Vass, "I hope that's okay." She replied,
"I've never tried it. Let's see."
I served dinner, and it seemed to go over very well with Davy and T-Vass. We ate and talked. Davy asked about a dessert. T-Vass suggested ice cream, and we all had some chocolate ice cream. Ginny loved her ice cream and got it all over her face, as usual. After dinner, I put Ginny to bed, then Davy wanted to do our martial arts exercises, and T-Vass wanted to watch. After that, Davy sat beside her and asked her to read a chapter of the Yellowtooth Adventure. Davy went off to bathe and get ready for bed. I said, "My kids are the best thing that has ever happened to me." I don't think I could have survived if it were not for Ginny and Davy.
He is a fine boy and Ginny is a beautiful little girl, the reflection of their parents. And now, a reflection of their father. I wish Saril and I had a child, but it was not to be.
We put Davy to bed, then went out to watch the movie. We did sit on the love seat, and I did introduce her to popcorn as we watched Superman the movie. After the film, she asked,
That seems to be an old, what did you call it? A movie.
I told her, the movie was released to the public on December 15, 1978, that's over 500 years ago. She thought,
I would think a man with the powers Superman had, I would have heard about him. But I've never heard of Superman.
I had to confess, there never was a Superman. Superman was the product of the imagination of two young men, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who longed for justice for the downtrodden. So they invented Superman. He was a comic book hero. They started publishing Superman on April 18, 1938. She said,
Captain, I have enjoyed this evening, thank you so much.
I replied, T. Vass, my name is David. Would you like to do this again? She smiled.
Yes, I would, David.
I asked, tomorrow evening, 1800? She agreed.
I would love to.
I asked, my only question, well, not a question. I don't know much about Hephaestousian cuisine. Would you command the replicator? She nodded. I walked her to her cabin, took her hand, and said good night. She gently pulled me close and kissed my cheek.
Good night, David.
The following morning as I stepped onto the bridge, my first officer said,
Captain on the bridge!
He smiled and asked.
How did your date go, sir?
I motioned for him to go with me into the ready room. I spun around, Joel, it was great, great to the point of being okay. He was puzzled.
What do you mean, sir?
I sat down heavily, I just don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Is she being polite or into it, like I am? Davy really likes her. Joel asked.
Sir, do you love her?
I replied, I think I do. Damn it, Joel, I'm sorry to put this whole thing on you, but you're my first officer and, I hope, my friend. He replied.
We're two of the few original crewmen assigned to this ship. We've been through a lot over the years. When you and the Admiral flew down to Alteres and saved Admiral Self, well, Commander Self and me, I never thought I would be your first officer. I only hope that I can always serve with you, and if you need a friend, well, here I am.
There was a choke in my voice when I said, thank you, Joel. Right now, I need a friend. During my tour of the ship the following morning, I saw her again as she walked with Commander Trank. She smiled and waved.
Good morning, Captain. Nice day. Don't you think?
I had to agree. Later in the afternoon, I happened upon Commander Trank. She came up behind me.
Good afternoon, Captain.
I was startled. Emily, what? She laughed.
I heard you and Tivas had a great time last night.
Again, I was somewhat startled. How? Who? Where? She laughed.
Tivas talked with me last night. She was, how should I say this? She was gobsmacked. She could only rave about you, Ginny, Davy, dinner, and the movie. I think she likes you. Going to pursue her?
I replied, I wish I knew. I want to, but I've never been into this dating thing. She said,
Just do what you did and everything will be okay.
She giggled, turned, and left. 1800 and again, Ginny and I reached for the annunciator at T. Vass' cabin again, and again just before I touched the button, she opened the door. She was dressed in a pretty blouse and skirt. I had never seen her so dressed before, but the pattern was familiar. I thought a while, then I remembered that I had seen the girls wearing such an outfit when I was in high school, a white blouse with a pink bow, a gray flannel skirt adorned with big pink poodles, and a bunch of crinoline petticoats. I felt underdressed, so when we got to my cabin, I changed into a new white t-shirt, Levi's, and sneakers. I just could not achieve a duck butt hairstyle. The routine was like the evening before. After dinner and conversation, chocolate ice cream, martial arts, and reading a chapter in the Yellow Tooth Adventure, Davy went to bed. T. Vass said,
That is one wonderful boy. He is everything I would wish for in a son. And Ginny, she's a dear. She's going to be a heartbreaker.
I said, I hope I teach her better than that. We sat for a few minutes, Then, she asked what movie I had chosen for the evening. I answered, Captain America with Chris Evans. And she asked about popcorn and Coke. We sat on the love seat, and she snuggled with me. Then, during a lull in the movie, she sat looking me in the eyes, and I had to kiss her. Then she sighed. I had heard that sigh from two other women, my first wife in 1962 and my second wife in 1985 and 2492. And the effect on me was the same as it had been so many years before. I gave my heart to the one who sighed. After the movie, she stood.
I guess I should go to my cabin.
She whispered in my ear.
Thank you for a wonderful evening, David.
I took her in my arms and asked, tomorrow evening? She nodded.
Yes.
Then I walked her to her cabin. We stood by her door, I held her and kissed her. Good night, T. Vass. She told me in whispered tones.
David, I have a secret name. Translated it means glow.
Good night, Glow. Sleep well. I kissed her again and walked back to my cabin. I didn't sleep all that well that night. I felt like I did in high school, young, strong, virile, and dumber than dirt. When I was with a girl I liked, I felt stupid. We had reached the southern wormhole, and Joel had paused the ship.
Captain, we're ready.
I urged, let's do it. Helm, into the wormhole. 16 nanoseconds later and we faced the ships of the Dolphin people.
Captain, we're being hailed.
On screen, I replied. The Dolphin said,
Captain Stevens, as you entered the wormhole after your last visit, I thought, we are a carbon-based life form. May we have the cure?
I replied, I will have to laminate the pages so they will survive underwater. Give us 2 hours. I ordered my yeoman to make a laminated copy of the cure and to title it AC-3, then teleport it to the Dolphin ship. Then we pressed on the Angel Cloud 3 to deliver the galaxy's gratitude and apologize for the threat I had issued. Each glow would appear and start to intercept us, but after approaching the ship, the glow would dissipate. My theory is that the glow recognized the Constitution and decided not to waste time on us. So, the trip to Angel Cloud 3 was fraught with a little anxiety, but nothing we couldn't handle. About 100 light years from Angel Cloud, we were engulfed in a cloud of sparkling motes that made navigation difficult. Then my crew stopped moving, they just quietly, motionless, and I heard a voice in my head.
Who are you?
The voice was like the caterpillar talking to Alice in the Disney movie, Alice in Wonderland. I replied, I am Captain David Stevens of the USS Constitution from the United System Navy. The voice said,
That is true, but incomplete. Who are you?
I am Commodore David Stevens. The voice said,
True, but who are you?
I replied, We are explorers from the United System Federation. Then the voice asked,
Why are you here?
I said, as I said, we are explorers, explorers explore. The voice asked,
Where are you going?
I answered, we are going to a planet designated Angel Cloud 3. Silence, and then,
Why are you going to Angel Cloud 3?
Many questions later, the voice said,
You are fatigued. You and your crew rest. We will continue tomorrow.
The crew stood and left the bridge like so many zombies. The swing crew came in and sat like zombies, and I returned to my cabin. I entered and saw Davy, Ginny, and T. Vass sitting at the table, and the voice said,
Feed them and put them to bed.
I asked, Is everyone in the crew like this? The voice said,
Yes. They will feed themselves and sleep. But you are the only free agent among them.
I asked, Why? The voice responded,
Eat and rest. We will speak tomorrow.
So I fed Ginny, Davy, and T. Vass lasagna and put them to bed. Davy and Ginny were easy, I'd been putting them to bed for 8 years. T. Vass, on the other hand, was very uncomfortable. I did not want to compromise her dignity, so I removed her shoes and socks and put her in my bed. I curled up on my sofa and tried to get a little sleep. Morning came, and the voice told me to feed my children and T. Vass and to meet it on the bridge. The voice asked,
Where are you from?
I told the voice that I would not divulge that information, and it asked why. I responded, I don't know you. I don't know your motives. I don't know where you are from. I know nothing about you, therefore, no information about our civilization. The voice responded gruffly.
I could crush you.
And I replied, Do it, I tire of this. Go on, get it over with, destroy us. The voice replied,
Commodore, Captain Stevens, you are free to go. We will meet again.
And the crew came to life as if nothing had happened. Barbara almost jumped.
Captain, we are only 100 miles from Angel Cloud 3. How?
I told her not to worry, I knew the answer to her question. Upon achieving orbit around Angel Cloud 3, I teleported down to the Governmental Congress. I was ushered in, and I apologized for my threats during my last visit. We have chosen to title the cure AC3 to honor those who developed it. Our doctors have assured us that AC3 works as you said it would. Not only that, but cancers of all types have responded to the cure. So I am here to say thank you from every carbon-based life form we have ever encountered. Then I asked them to forgive me for my threat and rage. The Prime Minister answered,
Captain, no one here can blame you because of the loss of your wife, your children's mother, to this dreadful cancer. We forgave you when you left US after your visit.
I responded, I can only hold such a civilization in high regard. I will take my leave and not disturb this body again, goodbye. I did a snappy about face and returned to my ship. I patted Joel on the shoulder and said, that's done, let's explore. Hank, pick out a star, and let's go see it. Hank smiled.
Aye, sir.
So Barbara broke orbit, and we began to explore this side of our galaxy. That evening at 1800, I, once again reached for the annunciator at T-Vast's door. And again she opened the door before I could press the button. She smiled.
David, I hoped you would call. I'm sorry about last night, I don't remember what happened. I just realized I might have done something wrong when I woke up, fully dressed in your bed this morning.
I assured her that nothing untoward had happened. One day, I might explain everything, but it's nothing to worry about right now. I prepared dinner for the four of us, we talked about her people, then afterward, our usual routine, chocolate ice cream, martial arts practice, story reading, then Davy was off to bed and we settled down to watch a movie, this time Sleepless in Seattle, with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. We sat on the love seat and petted some. After the movie, she shyly asked,
David, may I stay the night with you?
Yes, I replied. Then she asked,
May I sleep with you?
and I said, yes. Then she asked,
David, will you make love to me?
to which I replied, only if it's what you want. I pulled her close and she said,
It's what I want.
I held her for a long time and she started to cry. Flo, what is it? She whispered,
It's been so long.
and I reached for the buttons on her blouse. She was completely naked and just stood as I sighed. Oh, Flo, you are so very beautiful. She smiled and reached for the buttons on my uniform. Standing naked, I took her in my arms and gently kissed her, then led her to the bedroom. The four of us sat at the table eating breakfast and Davy asked,
Dad, is T-Vast going to live with us?
T-Vas, and I looked at him and I asked, how would you feel about that? He said,
It's almost like having Mom here. I would like it.
T-Vas blushed and said,
I couldn't ask for two better men to be in my life right now than you two, and Virginia is the daughter I would love forever.
Davy brightened.
Do you love my dad?
She nodded her head.
Yes, I do.
Davy turned.
Do you love her dad?
And I answered as I glanced at T-Vas, I think I do. Then her face began to glow. We finished and I walked her to her cabin. At the door I took her in my arms. She asked,
Did you mean what you said?
and I replied, yes. Have you ever known me to say something I didn't mean? And she smiled.
No, never.
I kissed her and we parted. As we approached Angel Cloud 2, we happened upon 3 spiral ships just floating in space. I ordered the sensor lab to scan the 3 ships.
Captain, the sensors indicate 200 life signs on each ship, but seem to be comatose.
So I ordered Joel, number 1, take a team and investigate those ships. Kate, I'm sending Joel and a team over to those ships. Keep tabs on our crewmen. She replied.
Aye, sir.
Upon arrival on the first ship,
Captain, these people are not unconscious, they're dead, perfectly seated at their duty station. It's like the ships we met while we were investigating the death pulse.
Captain, help!
silence. Shirley, I'm on my way down. Be ready to teleport me to Joel's location. I arrived in the teleporter room and jumped onto the platform. Go. When I arrived, the members of the team were all unconscious. Shirley, get these people back, Call sick bay, and get them treated. It's the death pulse all over again. I asked, who are you? The answer was,
I'm able-bodied spaceman, serially.
I thought, serially, are the others nearby? He replied, yes, I'm going to try to put things right. Can you inform your leader of my intention? He responded,
I will.
I called O'Reilly. O'Reilly, trigger the life pulse, please. The ship's crew all revived. Their captain came to me and asked what had happened, and I explained the situation to her. She asked,
who are you?
I replied, I am Captain David Stevens of the USS Constitution of the United System Federation Navy. At your service. She replied,
Captain Stevens, I am Captain Startwinkle, thank you. I don't know how to thank you properly.
But she reached out and touched my hand.
We will never forget what you have done for us.
I said, Captain, it was my duty to you. I must return to my ship and continue my mission.